Hello, my name's Sam Robson, and I'm the Medical Director at Temple Clinic and co-developer of our weight loss, weight management program Temple V. The Temple V program has been created to help individuals lose weight and keep it off for life. It necessarily incorporates lifestyle change with respect to food, exercise, and one's relationship with food, since it is only when these are out of kilter that weight management ever becomes an issue. The cornerstone for the Temple V program originates from evaluating and monitoring body composition. It is through improving and understanding the body composition that an individual learns what is required in order to stay slim and healthy. So let's first look at the important difference between discussing BMI and body composition. Traditionally, we have learned to use BMI as a yardstick for evaluating an individual's size and then drawing conclusions about their health and risk of certain diseases. BMI is calculated by dividing the weight by height squared. This calculation allows people to be categorized as being underweight when the BMI is less than 18, having a healthy weight when the BMI is between 18 and 25, being overweight when the BMI is between 25 and 30, and obese when the BMI is over 30. This has been found to correlate with the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and even cancer. This calculation does, however, have some serious limitations. Firstly, when it was devised more than 50 years ago, it was never intended to be used to categorize individuals, but was proposed as a simple way of evaluating the size of populations of people. The calculation makes no allowance for gender, age, ethnicity, or muscle mass. So, for example, an 8-stone gym bunny has the same BMI as an 8-stone couch potato of the same height, but physically they look very different, and their health risks would be anticipated to be very different too. Subsequent evaluations of such individuals has led to a better understanding of the correlation between size and disease risk, and this has been found to be much more closely associated with body composition than BMI. An individual's body composition comprises their organs, bones, fat, muscle, and water. A meaningful assessment of body composition provides details of body fat percentage, visceral fat, which is the fat packed around your organs, and when it is high, this raises concerns about the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, and muscle distribution. It's not difficult to appreciate just how much more meaningful an analysis of body composition is when you consider someone such as Arnie Schwarzenegger. In his bodybuilding heyday, he had a BMI of 32, and this would categorize him as obese, but he had a very low body fat percentage of 8. The ideal for men is to have a percentage body fat of less than 20%, and for women, the healthy ideal is to have a percentage body fat of less than 30%. The importance of muscle, and here I mean skeletal muscle, cannot be overestimated. Having good amounts of muscle in the body is essential for health and well-being. A high fat-muscle ratio is associated with chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Having a good amount of muscle supports healthy blood sugar levels and can help stabilize cholesterol. Muscle provides us with fitness and agility, enabling us to move our bones and joints and undertake activities of daily living as well as sport. With good levels of muscle, our joints are protected from injury and we're less likely to fall. Now, this is an important consideration as we age. We actually lose 3 to 5% of our muscle every year after the age of 30, and so as we age, we have to work much harder to both retain and build muscle. Our muscle mass is one of the main determinants of our own daily metabolic needs, which means how many calories we need every day just to survive. And few would doubt that having a toned and fit body has its own aesthetically pleasing appearance. Having established that body composition is important, the next consideration is how to measure it. It's not as easy as just jumping on the scales. Sure, the scales will tell you about your weight, but you won't learn much about your body composition. Even those specialised scales which allegedly report on your body composition cannot accurately tell you about visceral fat, and as we know, this is the really important fat level to keep under control when we worry about our health. At Temple, we rely on the InBody 720. This has been proven to be 99% equivalent in accuracy to a DEXA full body scan. This is the way that is generally agreed to provide the gold standard for measuring body composition. The InBody sends a small current around the whole body, and as this current experiences resistance to its passage, which is different between muscle, fat, water and bone, feedback data is collected. A computer program then analyses this data, and this is translated into information about the body composition. This machine is invaluable for collecting the baseline information about an individual. It's the starting point for anyone on the Temple V weight loss program, and it allows us to calculate a target weight. This is based on the body composition, and it also allows me to estimate the speed of weight loss by considering their basal metabolic rate. This is the number of calories they need on a daily basis. We use regular in-body measurements to track progress and also to adjust goals depending on changes in the body composition. So let me talk you through some in-body reports and you will see for yourself how useful such an assessment is. So I've got two reports here of two very different people. This side I have a 20-year-old young man and this side a 60-year-old lady. The first thing I look at is the total in-body score, that's here and here. This gives an overall evaluation of an individual's level of fitness. Broadly speaking, any score over 80 is excellent, and any lower score should improve as the body composition improves. Then we consider the relationship between weight, muscle mass, and body fat. Joining up the ends of these lines gives a quick visual guide to whether the body composition needs improving. This is a C-shaped curve, and this means we have too much fat and not enough muscle, whereas over here we have a D-shaped curve, and this means we have a good fat-muscle ratio. So when you look at these two, this young man of 20 with a score of 87 and a weight of 75 kilos demonstrates a D-shaped curve. You compare this with this older lady, aged 60, with a score of 64, weighing 56 kilos, she demonstrates a C-shaped curve. So we know that this person really needs to work on their body composition. The next bit on the data sheet looks at BMI and body fat percentage, and these two reports clearly illustrate the uselessness of BMI. The 20-year-old has a BMI of 25.7, technically overweight, but a percentage body fat of 16%. And remember, I said that men ideally need to be under 20%, whereas this 60-year-old lady has a BMI of 23.3 and a percentage body fat of 40.1%. And remember, ladies should be under 30%. So when we consider the shape of the curve and the percentage body fat, we are getting a very clear indication of a good body composition found in a fit young man compared to a skinny fat individual who, though technically a healthy weight if you look at her BMI, she has a poor fat muscle ratio and would therefore be more at risk from the chronic diseases previously referred to. The next part on the datasheet looks at muscle distribution of the body, and it's the lower line in each section that's important. So this line, this line, this line, see on all these, this is looking at the right arm, trunk, right leg and left leg. Now, this young man is right-handed and right-footed. He has more muscle in his right arm and his right leg, and he's got high normal levels of muscle throughout his body. This is the normal range here. All of these bottom lines are at the upper end of normal. Our lady is also right-handed, more muscle in her right arm than her left arm, but she's got barely normal muscle levels in her trunk and in her legs. You can see just here, lower end of normal, lower end of normal. This can be useful information when advising on areas to focus on with exercise. The young man should continue with what he's doing, whilst this lady should focus on improving all of her muscle development, but especially her legs. The next section looks at visceral fat. This is the key indicator for health, and at a glance you can see the difference between the two. This line here is taken as being the line between acceptable and healthy. Anything up here would be unacceptable and really would need to be addressed. So this young man is comfortably below the threshold for healthy levels of visceral fat with a score of less than 40. The lady has visceral fat above the threshold of 100 and has a score of 134.2. Clearly, this needs to reduce in order to lower her risk of developing chronic disease. And we know that as she loses weight and body fat, that her visceral fat level should also reduce. The next area that I look at considers basal metabolic rate, here and here. This number is calculated taking into consideration the age, sex, and muscle mass of the individual. So this young man needs 1,735 calories per day if he does absolutely nothing to maintain his current weight. So he probably needs 2,000 to 2,500 plus calories every day, depending on his level of activity and exercise. Whereas this lady, having low levels of muscle, requires 1,103 calories per day to maintain her current weight. Now this number can change dramatically with the body composition, and this information is important when it comes to knowing how many calories you should eat every day. You can easily appreciate that if this lady were to follow the standard guidance for women of eating 2,000 calories per day, she's likely to gain weight. Combine this information with what we've already surmised from the earlier data regarding the lack of muscle in her body. Basically, she doesn't enjoy exercise, which is part of what's needed to build muscle. She's therefore not likely to use these extra calories to gain muscle, but will just accumulate them and store more fat. At the bottom of the InBody datasheet is a graph that shows your progress over time, and this to me is one of the most valuable uses of the InBody machine. This graph here relates to one of my Temple V patients. This report shows this man's progress over just about 3 months. He has lost 22 kilos, which is more than 3 stone, dropped his body fat from 35.6% to 25.5%. And after an initial drop in his muscles of 2.5 kilos during the first month, he's actually been maintaining his muscle mass fairly well since then. All of my patients are given access to an app, which means they can look up their own results using their phone, and this means they can scrutinise their progress in detail. So in summary, we can see that body composition is a much more reliable evaluation than BMI. Having higher amounts of muscle means having a higher resting metabolic rate, which is the daily calorie requirement just to stay alive. Tracking the reduction in visceral fat provides a powerful reinforcement for making lifestyle changes that ultimately improve health and well-being. Using body composition as a biometric assessment that correlates well with progress has been shown to be invaluable when it comes to weight management. Thank you.